So first of all, it's great to meet all of you here and to give a first talk in Split in local community. And thanks a lot, Tony, for arranging it and for inviting me. My name is Andrzej Zinkiewicz. I came, like Tony mentioned, I came from Krakow, from Poland. I live here for 6 years. And I'm B2B marketing consultant. So that's like my 14th year in B2B marketing. I usually, like all my talks usually related to B2B marketing, all stuff related. And I even have one follower here who met me in Valencia during one of my workshops. So that was a big surprise for me. But today I won't be talking about B2B marketing. So today I'll be sharing my entrepreneurial journey, and I'm gonna share with you 11 core lessons I learned from starting a sales rep and marketer career to startup founder. I hope that might inspire you, might give you some learnings or some ideas, and that's the goal of today's talk. So actually, I run 3 core projects. So the first one, I'm co-founder of Royplan. That is software marketing platform. We just launched the beta version in January. And GetLeader is a B2B marketing consultancy company. You mean I don't need it? Okay, perfect. That is even easier for me. Where I work with enterprise SaaS and B2B service-based companies who are selling complex services or high-ticket services, and advice as a small inbound marketing agency. Besides this, I have also some smaller projects. I wanna, I assume you didn't come just to listen about what kind of projects I'm doing. So that's basically all my core activities. I started my career in 2006 as a sales rep. So it was like my 3rd grade. I finished my 3rd grade, third year in my university, and we had a so-called free passing educational program, if you know it. Like, so it means that you just need to come to exams, pass in exams, and you are like, if you succeed, you can promote to next year. So I actually switched to that program and started to work as a sales rep in an international company called Kimberly-Clark. It's a worldwide corporation, so that's how my corporational journey started. And that was like what I used to say, that was the first step of a long journey which led me to a startup founder at 2020, basically. So during this, let's say 13 years, I got like lots of learnings I want to share, and it's like, you see, it's some kind of historical lifestyle book, what has happened during these years, and I will be sharing all these lessons with you. So the first one, I want to share with you the way why did I decide to switch from corporate day job to entrepreneurship, why I decide to start my own business. Because like this question I got quite often from people who are working in corporate world. So basically, after working for 1 year as a sales rep, I was promoted to supervisor, and in 3 years I became a regional. At that time, I was like, one thing I forgot to say, I'm like half Polish, half Ukrainian. So I was born in Ukraine, but all my family originates from Poland. So I was studying and working in Ukraine, and I became a regional supervisor responsible of marketing and sales in eastern part of Ukraine, which is the biggest one. So then I was always thinking about how to move forward, and I remember I was like on my last year of university, and I was feeling like I'm staying, like I reached the plateau, and I need some kind of another challenge on this work, or I need to find a new one. And I had a proposal from a company which produces tea, one of the biggest tea brew, like it's if you have ever heard Ahmad company, Ahmad Tea. So they invited me as a national brand manager, and I passed through several interviews, and the last one was with the CEO of that company, and I had we talked about my experience, about he asked me several questions about marketing, about sales, whatever my vision, what I can do, standard interviews. And there was one question at the end, which he asked me okay, Andrei, sounds good, but I have one question. Where you want to be in 5 years? I was in 5 years, I want to have my own business. I don't have an idea what it should be. I don't know. I won't say that it should be some startup, agency, or whatever. I have no idea, but I want to switch from corporate day job to some kind of entrepreneurship. And he started just laughing in front of me, and he come on, man, you're 24 years old. People just finished in university at your age. Okay, that's great that you somehow managed to promote to regional marketing supervisor, but just be calm, drop down your ambitions, and you need just to get this job, and all what you are saying, you should forget about your own business. And that it really hit me. I was that's some kind of bullshit. I don't want, even the proposal was very, very good in terms of finance, in terms of personal income, but I decided to decline it. And then I continued. I moved from eastern part to Kyiv, to capital of Ukraine, and got first of all I worked for German consultancy companies where I was a CMO, and we help different European FMCG manufacturers, the same mostly, which produce the same stuff like Kimberly-Clark. It was all about hygiene, baby diapers, fem care, paper products, detergents, and baby cosmetics. So we help different European FMCG manufacturers to penetrate into CIS. By CIS, I mean post-Soviet countries. So this Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and all those countries to penetrate. And I was in charge of preparing the marketing strategy for this. For these companies, and my first client was exactly a company from Balkan. It was Paloma from Slovenia, so that was, you probably know this brand. So that was my first, I'm saying consultancy client, just because when I left the job, that was my first client. So then I got a proposal from one of the biggest, let's say, post-Soviet corporations called Biosphere Corporation. I got a proposal to be a CMO and be responsible for core national channels. And I took this job, and I remember the most funniest situation. My first day, this corporation was divided into two big departments. So I was working in one department, and I got acquainted with guys from another department. And the CEO of that department was exactly that guy who worked at that Ahmad corporation, who said me forgot about your ambitions. I was thanks God that he is not my CEO. He didn't hire me. But it was a big surprise. And again, I was working 3 or 4 months for this corporation, and we had some kind of internal Friday meetup, drinking beers with colleagues, and they were okay, man, they have heard at the time. I will tell about it in more details later, but at the time I had a marketing blog where I was writing marketing articles, and they're okay, man, it seems you have a quite good blog. Why did you decide to come to this corporation? That was an issue why I did accept this proposal because of unsuccessful business, and that would be my next slide. And they, okay, but what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? And I told the same story. So I'm gonna leave you in 1 year. And they, okay, what do you plan to do? So at that moment, I had a blog probably for 2 years. I had around, I think, 5,000 unique visitors per month, around 2,000 or 3,000 newsletter subscribers. And I was like, okay, like while I was working at Kimberly-Clark, I was always in charge of, like, it wasn't like my official role, but I always was in charge of educating my team, you know, like bringing new ideas, trying to like improve team, trying to improve their performance, helping them to achieve better results. And I thought like probably I'm gonna to train in business. So that's my idea. I feel like quite good in educating people and transferring this knowledge. And like they started to laugh. Like I'm like, why are you laughing? Cause like, well, it's not a business. What we're talking about? Like just wait here for 5 to 6 years. You'll get a promotion. Maybe you become like a CMO of all post-Soviet countries. You'll get like, I don't know, 50,000 euros per month, whatever. But at the time, I had quite good salary. I had like a car from the company, insurance, bonuses, whatever you need for life. And like, I was, but okay, that's not a goal. I'm not here just to earn this money. So it's like not what I wanna do for entire life. The reason why, just because in corporate world, you are always, you know, you are a small element of big machines. So you are coming with fresh ideas and nobody cares about them. So you try to provide, okay, guys, let's do this stuff. Well, you know, in 1 month, we'll have a meeting and you'll be able to present your idea. And next 3 months, we'll be discussing, should we implement it? Should we have allocate some budget for it or postpone it? And it was like, then what I hated, it's like, you know, this usual meetings, every meeting, let's have a meeting. Okay, what should we be talking about? Let's talk about our plans, but you have like, we are in corporation, we have all the stats, just in one click you can generate any report you want. Why we are like wasting time? One day I told like a CEO of company, just calculate the our salaries divided into hours and just calculate how much do you lose per these useless meetings. And he was like, well, that's a good idea, but we'll still need to do it. That made me really crazy. And I was feeling in 8 months, I got like several bonuses just for the highest performance. And they were like, okay, like my colleagues were saying, okay, man, you probably will be getting this proposal. You'll be invited, you know, to that like higher level, running all these countries. And I was feeling that I'm like, literally, I'm like, with my own skills, with my own knowledge, every day that I attend a day job, I'm going down and down, like I'm feeling that I started to degrade. So I'm doing like the same stuff every day, which like, and whatever you want to do besides it, nobody cares about it. So like one idea, I remember that time for the first time, I watched this movie. If you have ever seen it, it's The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. And that was a cool scene with when he was staying with his son and he said, like, people can't do something themselves. They want to tell you, you can't do it. If you want something, go get it, period. So that exactly was like, you know, I won't say that was a tipping point, but it was like something struck in my head. And like, that was a funny situation. And we are slightly going to the second slide. So I had a friend in Kiev who was like a big fan of Dynamo Kiev. He was like a rich guy. And he was like, I got acquainted with him by a friend of mine. And he was just, you know, he needed some kind of marketing advice, not something serious. And like, we met with him, we started to chat, and he was like, okay, like somehow he mentioned like the Dynamo Kiev game. I'm like, I came from Eastern Europe, so that was our biggest enemy, the same like Hajduk and Dynamo Zagreb, more or less, just to compare. So I hated this team, and like I just say I don't support Dynamo Kiev, but he, okay, you love it, let's go to some match. And we started to chat. So one time we talked about marketing, and then we always like attended, not like exactly Dynamo Kyiv matches, but we went to like league, Champions League matches and whatever, like national team. And while I was working in corporation, he was always, man, would you like to join my company? I like, no, 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 no. And then one day we were sitting like drinking a beer, and he said like, what do you think if I will give you a small share in my company, and like we'll launch some new, like exactly what I was doing in that German consultancy company. You'll just attract some new brands to our portfolio. They like basically that was import companies that imported goods and selling to core national channels, like you have Tommy, Konzum, like Bipa. So we were selling to the biggest Ukrainian chains, and I had like relationship. I knew everybody in these chains, and he said like, we can start some new, like I have like lots of free money I can invest, so let's do. And I was like, well, that's a chance to go to that business. So I came like immediately the next morning, I came to my day job. I just told that I am leaving the company. Everybody was surprised, but I was like, well, that's a cool way to switch to my own business. Well, it wasn't 100% mine, but still I became a co-founder, and we launched some projects together. And that was a funny situation. So that's like both second and third slides are connected. So we started to work. Of course, like I had an idea. I was living there, but as I told, my family originates from Poland, and I was always dreaming to come back to my historical homeland. And like, if you're, you know, like my grandmother, grandfather, they're not Soviet people, and it's very difficult if you are not Soviet. It's very difficult to adjust to Soviet mentality because it's like it's damn crazy. I want to go into details just at the moment. Maybe after the slides, somebody would be interested. I will describe it in more details. But it's like it's very crazy. Like European mentality and Soviet countries, like entirely different, and it was really hard to work there. So my idea was that I will earn money, I will have some, you know, so-called, let's say, amount on deposit that will allow me to come back to Poland, to Krakow, to my native beloved city. So I will have like enough time to decide what I can do there, and like, that's why I accepted that proposal. We started doing very great. I can't complain about everything. Incomes, like new projects that were bringing more revenue to our portfolio. We signed contract with 3 clients, so like literally we increased our revenue in 3 months probably by twice. So that was a great achievement. And what's happened next? It was exactly 6 years ago. It was 2014. I was in Slovakia working like with my oldest consultant client, with whom I work even now. It's Celtex company. So I was in Slovakia and Bratislava visiting them, discussing the plans for the next year. And in Ukraine, the war was starting. So I was like sitting there, listening to the news, and I was with my wife, and I'm like, we need to come back, and like the shit happens, like actually. But you know, the same was here. It's not so, it wasn't so bad in Ukraine like here, but anyway, you have the idea what was the situation. So basically, the national currency dropped down 5 times, so that like inflation was huge, and that mostly destroyed our business like in 1 month, just because we were buying everything in euros and selling in hryvnias, in Ukrainian currency. And with all chains, we worked with 90 days or 120 days determination of payment. So that means like we supplied goods and we just got money, if we were lucky, in 90 days, because in Ukraine, nobody cares about the contracts. No insurances, no banks, you know, like if they don't want to pay, they won't pay. Like you can go to court, but it can may last for like years, so you can forget literally about that money. So how it works, like how it worked there, you need to have a loyal purchasing manager, And every month you are like signing so-called non-official retro bonus that is packed into, you know, some small gift. And if you want to get the payment, that's how you get it. So pretty easy. And like, yeah. Huh? Yeah. Or you need to hire hitman. But at that time, you know, it was very popular business in Ukraine. So it was like literally the crime happened. So it was like dangerous to walk down the streets because like lots of people, there's like on eastern part where the war is actually continuing, which is called Donbas region, Donetsk and Lugansk. So these regions are, let's say, they're infamous for prisons. So lots of prisons, so like all of Ukrainian mafia was sitting, Ukrainian and Russian, it's like close to Russian border. So all the mafia, all the like bandits were there, and during the war, like they pronunciate themselves as like separate republics. So they don't belong to Ukraine anymore. And they allowed all the bandits like go away, so you're free. Yeah, and like in Kyiv, like it was even in Kyiv, it was crazy. So like if you want, you can like search on YouTube lots of videos. So you're staying on petroleum station, just came out to, you know, to tank your car. A guy is coming like, do widzenia. Yeah, so it was looking like this. So then like hitman was quite popular at that time. Well, but what was happening? So I wanted to move to Krakow. At the time, I told to like my co-founder that I'm like, okay, like I'm joining you here for like just maybe 1 year, but then I'm going to Krakow and we can continue like our ideas, our projects there. And he was like, okay, don't mind, and I will, like, if you have any ideas how to promote it in international markets, that would be perfect. So the only reason why didn't we come earlier to Poland, to Krakow, was that just my wife was pregnant and we were waiting for our second son. And she said, like, okay, like, I'm a bit afraid of going to Krakow because we don't have, like, nobody there, our parents here, so let's our second son born in Kyiv, and then we'll move. And we decided, and what's happened, that what I learned the hard way. So we started, like, as I mentioned, we started just losing the money drastically. So every morning I came to, like, to office, I got like reports from accountants, and I was just calculating our losses, just because of that damn inflation. And what my co-founder did, he said like, okay, man, you know, like, let's meet one evening. He was like a bit drunk, and he was like, I have a serious conversation with you. Like, I'd like to be sincere. I'd like to share like my thoughts frankly. So, you know, we are losing money. Yeah, of course I know, because like we don't earn anything, we just losing it. And you know what? Like I decided to, like, that share in my company I gave to you, I wanna cut it. So you won't receive anything. And like, well, and how do you think I should, like, what I should be living for? Well, you know, you should think about how to manage our like common projects. So I'm not talking that I will build, so we are still 50-50 with that new project, but you need to like manage somehow to make them profitable. Like I'm saying, are you kidding? Like, how can I do it? I can't like resign the contracts. I can't do anything with inflation. And well, that's what we have. So literally, what I was earning for years, in half of year, I lost everything. Like everything I remember the time. So when my son was born, in Ukraine, it's like a bit complicated even with pregnant houses. You know, you just, if you wanna, like, we don't have any kind of government insurances or whatever, like what you have HZO, we have ZUS in Poland. So if you want, like, that your life would be in good conditions, so the minimal price you should pay is 1,000 euros to be at least in a good condition, so nobody would be rude with her, they will feed her with like some good like food and whatever. So that was like my last amount of money, and I had like probably 500 euros to just pay for like, you know, for that like lolly bag. So that was like, that made me really crazy. What I did at that time, so that came like bring me back to the idea that I need to like to do anything like aside this day job. So I started to think like what my friends, like had some friends who ran their own businesses. So I started to think, okay, so this guy is running clothes store, like it's not a good fit for me because I won't open it. Okay, so this guy is running logistic company. So let me think, I am like marketer, how I can help him, maybe earning more and how like he will share like some incomes with me. So I called him on, oh, well, okay, like let's do it, I'm up to it. So I started to hardly promote his company, doing different marketing experiments, activities. So we started to get leads. So we like, I'm sending him leads and like no reaction. Then like next day I get an email, like remember from one lead, he's like, okay, so I left an inquiry and nobody replied. So I'm calling my friend, okay man, so I sent you like a lead yesterday, why didn't you call him? Well, you know, I didn't have a time. Cool, but I can't, like, you have all the conditions, you deal with drivers, you deal with like legit price for these trucks and whatever, so I have no this I don't have this information, so I can't call leads. I can't provide anything to them. Well, you know, when I will have the time, I will call them. Shit, like, immediately the same, like, the idea, you need to make money, so again, it failed. So I decided, like, whatever, like, I took, let's say, some private loans from parents, friends, and whatever, and said my wife, so let's pick up all our stuff, let's pick up my son, and let's go to Krakow. I am like full of Ukraine. That's just another story why I'm talking, like, at the moment, I'm really neutral to that country, but at the time, I was really angry because lots of things. So we just packed all our stuff and went to Krakow. And I decided to start, like all my assets at that moment was my blog, was my newsletter subscribers, was like, let's say, my small community and people who was like fond of articles I was publishing. So what I did, I like decided to analyze my newsletter subscribers, and I just made a list of people who, like, you know, who opened most of my emails and who clicked on most emails, clicked the links, visited my blog, read most articles. So I decided to reach them out and ask, like, first of all, introducing personally myself to them, tell them, like, saying thanks for, like, reading my stuff, and ask them to, I made a short survey where I was asking about their challenges, what kind of marketing help they would like to get, and whatever. Like, I got replies, and then simply like reach them out if I'd run any kind of consultancy and would be able to help you with this type of problems. Would you like to hire me or get my personal help? And I got like 3 replies. I sent, okay, so if you want, we can proceed like literally from the moment. And here's my PayPal link. And like 3 people just paid. So that's how that, let's say, official consultancy started. And then I realized, so from that point, everything, you know, started to go on. Like, people asked to make more workshops, to create some courses, and so on. And then I realized that, like, from years, it was like 6 years ago, you know, like, from this perspective, I can say that literally, whenever you think that your goal is only making money without any mission, without any idea of helping people, like, I learned that. I don't know about everybody, but in my point of view, for what I have seen, these projects are always fail. So at that time, I started to realize projects with successful mission. And one of these companies is Mind Valley. which is like, I really like this company because of their corporate culture and the way how do they educate people. So Mindvalley, what I got fond of is their mission. So they thought, you know, like being human is more than just what about broken education system makes it out to be. We teach the world the art of truly living extraordinary, fulfilling, happy lives. So I was so inspired because I visited their community. I saw like thousands of great testimonials about the programs, the way how do they programs, the way how do they improve their programs, the way how do they help people, like lots of topics, you know, like weight losses, productivity, whatever, like lots of it's like, let's say, so-called soft skills. And I was like, that is something I need to do in marketing space. And I just applied these principles, and literally in 2 years, I grew my blog to 35,000 unique visitors per month. My newsletter subscribers hit the 25,000 subscribers level. Well, and I got like every month I got lots of inbound leads of people who were coming to me and asking for like consulting services. So that was an idea that you always need to find like the way how you can help your clients, how you can improve their lives, and like the money will always come. So that is my core principle with all projects I cooperate with or I'm founding. And there is a funny story with growing personal brand or growing a company brand. I was like, I had an idea just because I was visiting Western blogs, Western entrepreneurs who is like in marketing, in tech scene. I was like, I realized that most of them have like, they name companies. So it's not like Noah Kagan, but he had like Ogdoors. He's a founder of Sumo.com and AppSumo, if you have ever heard. That's like a Groupon for software products. So Brian Dean in search engine optimization scene, he has a backlinker company he's famous for. And I was like, well, probably I need to find some kind of company, but that was like, at the same time, I had I learned a story which inspired me. This guy is Oleg Tinkov, he's from Russia, and he's so-called Russian Richard Branson. I mean, just why so-called? Because he hangs out quite often with Richard Branson, he's quite famous, but he's damn good entrepreneur. He launched lots of businesses, brewery, like he made so-called pelmeni, if you know, like it's like some kind of Italian gnocchi, but in Russian style. In Poland we call it pierogi. So, like in different areas, he like entered in like, you know, commodity business, and he just crushed that space. He grew. He always became the most like the top company in the industry, and like 3 years ago, in Russia, which is like very corrupted. In Russia, you know, there's no PayPal, no Revolut, no TransferWise, like the same in Ukraine also. So like these companies don't penetrate into this market just because of corruption and like of broken debt financial system. So this guy decided to create a bank without no branches. So the first remote bank in industry in like totally corrupted country, like which is ran by dictator. So that was like a big surprise. Everybody thought like, man, forgot about like lots of, you know, media, they were like posting like, that's a crazy idea, he will suck, that definitely like he has no chances in this market. But again, like you can see, like this post is from his Instagram, and he said like that it was like probably in 4th of February. So he said that they hit with Tinkoff Bank, they hit $10 billion in capitalization. So they are at the moment the fastest growing bank in the entire world. So that's a crazy idea. But the bank is called Tinkoff, and all of his companies was called Tinkoff, like Tinkoff Brewery and whatever. So that was my idea. I learned it, and I decided that's probably the smart way. If this person like is so successful, that's probably I need also to apply to myself. So I decided like without, you know, pretending to be like a big consultancy company, because it was my one-man show. So I naturally, as a consultant, I work as a either outsourced CMO, so like outsourced marketing director, or I work as a team extension. So I join them, I help them with some processes, I coach them, and then I leave this company. So I decided I want to pretend to be a like consultancy company, McKinsey or whatever. So I will be just Andrei Zinkevich. And that's all. And that's happened, like that's very positively impact me, because whatever I was launching later, new products, that was another story. I launched a product called the CEO Club, CEO and like CEO, which in 2 years became the biggest competitive of Forbes in terms of business media. So we were just online. I'm talking about offline, like printed journals, but in online scene, we even like in 2 years we had almost 500,000 unique visitors per month. We sold ads, and I decided I had also implemented ideas from that guy. I was like thinking like, them, all the business media, what they are doing. So they are selling just, you can buy banner on my website, you know, but if you are, let's pretend, if you are coming, you wanna like, somehow you'll get a social proof I was published on, let's say, Forbes, or in our case, CEO Club, but people don't pay for banners or for social proof. People pay for results. They want actually some leads, some like MQLs, sales qualified leads, whatever. So I was thinking it's like very ineffective. Like people, you know, there's called banner blindness. So most people ignore like banners. Most people install Chrome extensions that block banners. So I was like, how we can improve this this industry? And I came to the idea that we need to run native ad campaigns for like customers. So what did it mean? So a new company comes to us like, okay, we want to buy an ads. What we started to do for them, so we had a content writer. So this content writer started, like first of all, we asked about target audience, about markets, about products, about their core value proposition. How do they, like, what is their core difference from their competitors? How do they beat their competitors? And then we brainstormed ideas, how can we present their products to our business audience? And we came with, like, we always came with several ideas. We sent these ideas to clients. They picked up one topic, and then we like interviewed the client about this topic and created an article and connected the dots with their product, promote like in native way, not like pushing it, just buy it because it's great. But we were like, you know, adding some features, mentioning these features. It was like mostly educational article, but let's say some kind of how-to, or some kind of in-depth guide. Slightly mentioning this product, adding screenshots from this product or photos, pictures, whatever. And that was our breakdown, just because once we launched our revenue, once we launched that service, our revenue was around like 30,000 euros per month. Not more than something really big, but more or less it was good for these markets. Like when we launched this service, we like doubled our revenue in 3 months. And that like, I then sold, also that's another story, I sold my share in that company, decided not to continue with it. And I decided to launch, to launch a new global product. And that's like another story. And the goal of having that strong personal branding was that once I was announcing a new product, I always had an early adopter. The same I came later, I will tell you later about Royplan, that's marketing software I'm launching at the moment. Like it was just a matter of one LinkedIn post to have 100 beta tester users just to test and to provide the feedback without doing literally anything, just a matter of one post in my B2B marketers and founders community. So that's the positive impact of personal branding instead of company branding. But here is one funny story. When you are going with personal branding, you can start pursuing the vanity metrics. And all the vanity metrics are followers, likes, shares, and whatever. Just because followers, likes, and shares never convert into money. So that's what I learned the hard way. And that was a funny story I posted in my community. You know, I was thinking about how can I like proceed with my blog, how can I monetize, but monetize like in terms of earning more, but doing like more impact, helping more people. So I was like learning about different content marketing strategies, tactics, and I came to idea by that guy Brian Dean I mentioned with content upgrades. So literally this tactic means that for every article, and at that moment I had around 80 articles in my blog, and for like, let's say 40 of them I was ranking like on the first page of Google. So I had like most of the traffic was organic traffic. And I was like, okay, so what can I do with this? How can I play? And his idea with content upgrades was that like you create some kind of additional content to every piece, to every article you have in your own blog. So that means if you, let's say, I wrote an article about ideal customer profile, I like as additional content, I can share like ideal customer profile template and ask for email for this template. So that's what I did. Like, and I was like seeing that like conversion from traffic to subscribers was immediately increased. I got like literally 25,000 subscribers in 1 year. And I was like, when I analyzed like open rates and sales, I realized that open rates like dropped down from like normal 30% for one email, like from one email newsletter to 12, 13. And then I realized that's like a lot of bounce rates and a lot of spam complaints. Just because lots of people then like it, and also I analyzed sales, and sales didn't increase. When I had like 5,000 subscribers, but people who naturally subscribe to blog, the sales was literally the same, but the open rates, all the stuff was much more better. And then I came to mind like that people that like the fact that they download some additional content doesn't mean that they want to like to hear something from my side. That doesn't mean that they are sales ready and they want to buy something like or hire me or whatever. So that was the truth. I had the same like on Facebook. I was like, you know, at the time I was talking on most popular conferences in Kyiv, in Moscow, in St. Petersburg. I had all these damn followers, and people like for every time like I'm posting, oh damn, that is so good, it's so cool. But like when it comes to sales, nothing. Like people don't convert. So that was like a funny story. I realized that like making money and making followers are two different things. So I decided what I have done. I like wrote a sincere newsletter, but at the time I had a very, let's say at the time I had a broad positioning. So it was about B2B marketing, not related to any niche, and like the audience was like entirely different. You know, lots of people were coming like, besides my target audience, there were like bloggers, copywriters, marketers, content marketers, and whatever who were just reading my stuff, but didn't have willingness to like to use any paid products. So that was the story, and I decided what I decided to do. I just shoot a newsletter. First of all, I narrowed down my focus and said like, I will continue work with just two industries, with like B2B service-based companies and with B2B enterprise software companies, which I was like working for at that moment for the last 2 years. Now I'm working with that industries for 6 years. And like all the content will be related to this, like to these two industries, and you need just to qualify yourself. So I created a big survey, so you need just to fill it in if you wanted to proceed with my newsletter. So from that 25,000 people, only 5,000 people left. But like immediately the amount of inbound leads, immediately the quality of inbound leads increased. So I got like my biggest, at that time, client from Russia, besides international customers from Russia, like that Rostov manufacturing company with who I worked for 2.5 years. And that was like greatest example. And when I asked, why did you hire me? Like I'm always asking clients Like, why me? And he said, like, because all your emails, I was reading them, and I was feeling that you, like, wrote them exactly for me. So that was the goal of that story, and that I realized that, like, all the stuff, followers, like, all the things doesn't matter, so you just need to focus on your real target audience. And then I wanted to share, like, a funny story, just because it's nowadays lots of people are talking. I mentioned that I ran a workshop in Valencia at that time. I didn't tell about this, but about LinkedIn. But what's happening nowadays that people became so obsessive about all the stuff, becoming influencer. I need to be influencer in my industry. I need, like, and what's happening with, like, with people, it's like, just because we are living in technology era, you know, lots of softwares appear, and like a year ago, a tool called Lamport appeared. So basically, Lamport is a tool that helps you to, like, you can invite people, and people will automatically comment and like your posts. And like, lots of so-called fake influencers appeared on LinkedIn, literally like that guy. So you see, like, all the stuff. If you go down with all his posts, you'll see the same comments and, like, the same, couldn't agree more, like, very good post. And you are just scrolling the same people, the same comments for every post. And that's actually how it works. I will show you so that you can easily buy. That's a screenshot from Lamport. It's like a sync of one click, you know, just you can create it, and you can literally, and these guys, what they're doing, you know, like, he got this 16,000 followers, and okay, what I want to sell you, the LinkedIn influencer program. So I will make everybody influencer on LinkedIn. That's gonna crazy. I have had, like, lots of people, because I like, with my co-author Ricardo, with who we run these workshops, we wrote also a book we are selling on LinkedIn about LinkedIn inbound marketing, and our customers who buy this book, they say, like, guys, that's damn crazy, because we tried all these bullshit tactics that doesn't work for us, but when we tried, like, how the real market works, it started to work. That was, like, the funniest thing about this. But if you ask what is really matter, or what if you are going with personal brand, because personal brand, you know, anyway, you need it, even if you don't think to run an agency or whatever, build your own business. Still, if you are working for a company, you need it. Just because when I mentioned that Biosphere Corporation hired me, one of the reasons was that they were reading my blog, and they thought, like, well, that's, like, a smart guy. We want to hire him. Like, that's what I have heard from CEO. And like, from my point of view, every employee can, like, work on personal brand, just because if you want to get better contracts with your, like, existing employer, if you want to get a better job, if you want to get, you know, meaningful relationship with industry, you still need it. And you don't need to run blogs, you know, you can use, like, LinkedIn, Reddit, Quora, Facebook, whatever, like, where your target audience hangs out. You can use all these platforms, but you always need to think about three most important metrics. The first one, meaningful connections and relationship. By meaningful connections, I mean connections with your potential customers, with your potential partners, with your potential employers, with, like, in my case, with event organizers who can, like, invite me to different great events. The second metric, by relationship, I mean it's not like, hey, my name is Andre, I saw your profile and I want to connect you, and that's all. By relationship, I mean that you start normally chatting with this person. You start to learn about this person, about their business, and you think, like, about them, you take care about them like a friend. The next metric is inbound requests. So that naturally means by inbound requests, it doesn't mean also leads, but it's also, if you are an employee, it's like inbound proposals from employers for, like, joining better companies, better conditions, or whatever. And promoters, partners, venues. So promoters, I mean people who can promote. It doesn't mean that they will buy from you, but they, like, in my case, I work with, I cooperate with another marketing consultants who can, who can promote me, who can mention me somewhere, and we'll show you another slides about this. So these are three core important metrics that you need to work on. So the next lesson is the power of 10,000 hours. That is actually me 9 years ago in Kiev when I attended the first workshop, the first marketing workshop, and I was sitting like what I'm listening here. So at that moment, I spent 5 years in B2B marketing and sales, and I was like, I went to the first, like, it was not a conference, but it was some kind of meetup workshop with different speakers, and I was like literally surprised of very basic stuff people are talking about there. And I was like, but damn, I'm sitting here, I'm listening here, and these guys are talking. So that was like something I wanted to switch sides. So I want to be there, and like these guys needs to listen to me. I'm just kidding. I wasn't at that level. I wasn't so confident I am good, but like I was like, how can I do it? So I came to like the smallest, like probably the most easiest idea is what I need is just to like write guest posts and post for magazines. So that's just one from printed magazine. So that's I didn't have any blog. So then like people, at the end of every journal, you know, at the end of every article, there was my email, and people was writing, well, man, like that was a good article. So like, do you have any kind of blog where we can read more? So that actually inspired me to start that blog. And how did I build that confidence? I read a book by how this author was called, Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, exactly, Malcolm Gladwell. It was Genius and Outsiders, if you have ever heard about this. He is sharing a story about 10,000 hours, and he was sharing a story about Beatles. So with Beatles, it happened like before they became popular, they were like playing in some like very shitty clubs in Liverpool, in Sheffield, in the UK, and nobody knew them. And like nobody, when they wanted to like, you know, to promote themselves to some good nightclubs, nobody wanted them. So they went to Germany, and like they succeed in Germany, and they spent some decent years, and like their sharing, or their learning also was that you need like to become a pro, you need to spend this decent amount of time doing the same stuff. So like that was my mindset, and I assumed, okay, so like let me do it. I assume that might work if people like just reply to like some random articles. I'm reading them and I'm laughing just because in terms of my like nowadays of my understanding of quality content, that like it's something really shitty. But anyway, that was like exactly my idea. Like you need to start your journey with some first step. So that was an idea. I decided to practice, then started that blog. And like what's happened to me like after, because I spent already definitely more than 10,000 for this 13 years, more than 10,000 hours in B2B marketing. That led to nowadays I'm working exactly that slide from Valencia workshop, doing workshops throughout Europe, Prague, Valencia, Krakow, Warsaw, Berlin, Stockholm. So that was a result of that practice. And another thing that happened, helped me with these 10,000 hours is just not to, you know, to distribute your focus on all possible areas, just because you'll always have tiny, shiny objects. You'll think, okay, I need to like to do this, that, and whatever. So like my core idea, once I played with that, like when I realized that there is no correlation between subscribers, followers, and all this vanity metrics and your incomes, I decided to focus on two audiences where I'm really good. So that was like my position in full funnel marketing for service-based, for B2B service-based companies, tech products, and enterprise SaaS. That's I'm like in internal circle that what I am famous for, and that helped to like for me to become like to get to that place where I am nowadays. So the next step is what I wanted to share is the most easiest but time and energy consuming way to quickly ramp up your skills. And once I sold my share in that CEO club, I had just one project. So I had only my blog running these courses, but I was like, again, I was feeling exactly like my last year at corporate. So I was feeling I reached the plateau. So I'm working with not very let's say I won't say bad words, but I wasn't working with the audience I wanna really to work. But it wasn't the problem of people who reached to me out or with who I work, but the real problem was that the average quality of businesses in post-Soviet countries is damn low. It's like managerial culture, attitude, it's still that. What I wanted to say about post-Soviet countries is that mentality is that they tend to think, besides international companies, of course, but companies which were founded by Soviet people, they have an attitude, if I hired you, you are literally my slave. So you need to do whatever I will say. On Saturday, 10 p.m. you can get an email, where's my report? But it's weekend. I don't care, tomorrow I need a report or something that's that's how it's happening. So I was with that biggest Russian customer, that Rostov manufacturing company. It was a funny story. They have a very good two co-founders, and they hired me for marketing, but they didn't have a marketing team. So they was their revenue was around $1 million per month, so quite a big company. And they had only one marketer, which wasn't really a marketer. I called it marketing secretary, So she was in charge of booking hotels, booking tables at at restaurants, doing everything that is not related to marketing at all. But she was very proud of her title, CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. So that was a funny thing that I also learned hard way. CMO doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be a Chief Marketing Officer. So I made an audit, and I realized that their biggest problem is not in marketing. Their biggest problem was in sales. And they had their core channel was wholesalers. So they sold to these wholesaling companies with they sold them with the lowest possible price. So the marginality was really low. And of course, to grow this channel and to make more money, you need more qualified people. Just because it's really hard to deal with these customers. And once I made a random audit, so I sent inquiry from their website, pretending I am wholesaler in from some random city in Russia, made some fake email, and first of all, I got reply just in 3 days. I mentioned I mentioned I had how we called it, IP telephony. So I switched my number to Russian phone number. So I added, nobody called me, no follow-ups, nothing. So then I had a weekly call with the founder, and maybe something wrong with your department. But no, I have people who are working there, they are working for 10 years in this company, they have very good relationship with clients. You are sure? Yep. Okay, so let me show you something. And he was he was hearing, he was listening to me, his eyes was become bigger and bigger. And then I told you, let's make some tests. Just buy quickly an anonymous number and call your department. Well, I do it later. No, let's do it right now. And he was okay. So he's calling, nobody picking up the phone. Okay, send an email, make a fake email, send an email, and you'll see how it works. And the same story with me. So he got a reply in 3 days. But the reason why I asked, what is the salary of your sales rep? And their salary was $300. I told, man, your core channel, so this channel generated around, maybe I am wrong at the moment, but it was something as 65% of their entire revenue. And you have the lowest skilled salesperson who manage this channel. Like, I'm still surprised that you are not growing, and the problem is not in marketing. So that was like, that's mostly how we can like characterize the post-Soviet companies. So I felt like I need to switch to some like global market. I was always like thinking about how to collaborate with the global community. And like, of course, you know, it's like a bit complicated when you are popular on local market, and like if you are going outside, you are nobody. Nobody knows about you. You have zero connections, zero credibility, whatever, and you have like always, you know, internal like, let's say, head trash that I'm not native English speaker, how I will be presenting, how I will be writing, all this bullshit, because like I'm calling it bullshit just because nobody's care about it. Everybody in Europe has his own accent, his own style of pronunciating English words, and like everybody is not native speaker, so nobody cares about this. So I came to idea first of all, I wasn't so confident in my skills in terms of global market. The reason why was like, again, I was working with post-Soviet companies. I had like some like Paloma, I had Intervion from Warsaw, from Poland. Already worked with Celtex from Slovakia, and like, but still it's like Eastern European companies, and you know, it's like quite difficult to switch to Western world just because, you know, all the books, like in terms of marketing, all the best marketing books are coming from United States, from Western Europe, and you are like, well, you are learning from these guys how, like, where am I and where are they? So it was like very complicated. So I thought, okay, like I need to ramp up my skills, so I need to become a better marketer. And probably the most easiest way is to get connected with these people. But how can I do it? So the most, again, I was thinking about the most simple, like the steps that would be the most simple to take, the most easy to take. And I decided to create a Facebook community, like a broad one, which I called B2B marketers and founders. So my idea was, like, I can invite B2B marketers with who I can engage, you know, share experience, learn, ask questions, ask like questions about like different countries, experience, mentality, and whatever. And founders, of course, just in order, I will work here, like I mean, I will develop, I will grow this community, and I will engage with it, share my knowledge, share my experience, and then later maybe some of them will hire me as, like, let's say, I will make a ground for growth, for nurture my leads. So I went to LinkedIn. That was how all the story started, with LinkedIn inbound marketing. I had probably 50 connections on LinkedIn, like, and all of them were my colleagues from previous jobs. And I made this post, you know, like, I am going to run this community, and I already invited my friends of mine, Guillaume from Paris, Gilles de Klerk from Belgium, and some parts. So I thought, like, if you want to join, just comment and I will send you a link. So that post got literally 1 million views on LinkedIn. And like in one day, but it wasn't in one day because I couldn't manage to send all the links to all the people. But let's say in 3 days, the community grew to like from 0 to 1,000 people. That was a big surprise to me. But then, like, I came to, again, with idea. I loved what I was doing. I started to, you know, to meet with people, like, because in Krakow it was a bit easier than here in Split, because everything was connected. Germany, whatever, we are very close, Czech. So, like, we met personally. We started to arrange some local meetups. We chatted, like, via Zoom. And as a result, what happened with us in 3 years? Like, we grew to 3,000 members, but might be a bit surprise for you, like how you, like, why just 3,000 members is like from day 3 you had 1,000. The reason why is that just after half of year we cut 800 members from that community, and we also with Ricardo we focused like we narrowed down the focus of this community, the content will be posted, and we created an ideal, what I called in marketing, ideal customer profile, but in this case we created an ideal community member. So that's why every like from 10 people who sent a request to join the community, we declined 9 people. So that's why it's growing like not so quickly, but still it's a very, like in terms of quality, it's a very good community. So that was the goal. And with people, what we started to do, like we started to make like interviews with different B2B marketers from like entire world. We started to like share more content, you know, writing articles there. So that's helped me to like, first of all, to improve my English writing. That helped me to improve my like normal English, because it was a bit complicated at first to give talks in English. And like step by step, we started to get a lot of mentions in different marketing blogs. Like exactly, this report is actually a company from Belgrade, from Serbia. So they was like mentioning that it was fast-growing company in Serbia. So like lots of companies started to recommend this community, and it started to grow. But personally, for me, like I became really passionate with it, like because I didn't earn anything from it. But all this, you know, all this like that. Just 3 of testimonials from like hundreds. That people were saying like, damn, it's so good, it's so inspiring, it's so helpful and valuable, that like I'm like probably I figured out my way how to do it. But personally for me, like what I get it for, first of all, we created a private mastermind group with marketers from entire Europe. So these guys who are like one of them, Ricardo, is a head of growth of the biggest Belgium and Dutch marketing agency, which worked with B2B but low-ticket softwares. Pim, who worked for an innovative consulting company in Amsterdam. Karel, who owns software development company, and his biggest client is Czech Ministry of Transport. So guys like Angelo from Italy, who is like the most famous CEO guy in Italy, and whatever. So we started, you know, this like monthly masterminds, monthly or quarterly masterminds. We started, so everybody came with questions, with very difficult questions, which you can't find, you can't find an advice in blogs, in like books or whatever. So you need to get an inspiration and like advice, or sometimes a feedback from people who are like who have the domain knowledge. So that was like the best way to like to improve, to ramp up your skills. And also it got me access to like world best B2B marketers, because I started that podcast called B2B, the System B2B Marketing Show, and I started to like recording podcasts, you know, with Kieran Flanagan, who is VP of Marketing at HubSpot, if you know, like that's just a big, one of the most famous marketing automation softwares, like Susan Petal, one of the most famous guy in SaaS industry, like Matt Hines, one of the most famous B2B marketers. So that was like a personal idea, but with this podcast, I again applied all those principles. And I take like, first of all, with like how did I prepare myself for every podcast conversation? So I didn't talk about random, like I didn't ask random questions, you know, how did you start? What did you do to grow your company? But I took a guy who like has a knowledge in specific area. Like in this case, like let's pretend how to create a B2B marketing strategy for a software company, because this guy like he grew HubSpot. Like that's a great, like he has a great knowledge. So with that guy, I started, you know, to ask specific questions I had from my clients, from my challenges, what I really wanted to know about. And the biggest benefit I got from it, that I literally got a free advice from people who has a great knowledge. So that was, of course, like again, like another opportunity to grow my own skills. And then, like, you know, it helped me to start sharing my knowledge. And even in Spain, which I'm like, I was given talks like in last 2 years, probably in different Spain cities. And this guy, he's one of most famous Spanish marketers who like mentioned me and lots of people, you know, sharing about the community, about myself, and that's also the result of like doing all this type of activities. But let me share, because we don't have too much time. I want to go quickly with some managerial stuff and learnings I learned during these 13 years. So once I started to grow like that community. I created a Get Leader project where it's basically my B2B marketing consultancy. And of course, I had that blog for Russian-speaking company, for like Russian-speaking markets. So what I decided to do, I took my team from that CEO club, so I invited to join me and just rebranded that website to an inbound marketing agency. So we started to grow with it, like slowly. Just this, I didn't have an idea. I didn't want, to create some big agency. Never wanted to do an agency business, but still, we like in 1 week we recruited 5 clients. We acquired 5 clients. So we reached our total capacity. And what's happened? I was like a micromanager. So I was like, okay, but in inbound marketing, we were doing the same native ads, but in scaling. But so we were in charge of entire content marketing of our clients. And I was like, send me all the interviews for review, send me all articles for review. Did you run SEO optimization? Send me your report, send me your keyword research and whatever. Send me client feedback. And I was like, I realized that I literally spent 80 to 90% on reviewing all this stuff. So that was damn crazy. But what people learned from me, that they can share, so they don't need to be responsible. I need to be responsible. So once they said, they're sending everything to me. Whatever happens, all questions to me, I need to decide. And that was that famous quote by Richard Branson, that if you really want to grow, you need to learn how to delegate. So I was like, that was a very tough question. So I decided, how can I do it? And just don't worry, it's in Russian because this team is Russian speaking. But it was an example. So every time, this slide is a question, I don't know how to install analytics on a Podia. We use this software for courses. I'm just, okay, but I hired you that you need to solve it. I don't care. You need to figure out. Just go to ask their support, visit their frequently asked questions or whatever. But you always, your team, if you want solve this, your team always be delegating you all this stuff. So then I made a post with areas of responsibility. So everybody is responsible for this, and that. And you need to if you agree, okay, so just comment that everything is clear. And what we decided doing next. So we started that was my idea of documenting of all our processes. Content audit, content preparation, search engine optimization, initial audit, initial onboarding, and whatever. So we have lots of checklists that are standardized, and I don't care about all the details. What I did then, so I hired first, I didn't initially got the benefits of it, but then I realized all the benefits to hiring, and I will click one slide. Further, to hire a project manager, because I hired that girl and she's in charge of everybody, of all timelines, of controlling everybody. So I'm literally don't care about it. All I ask her, just send me a progress once per week. That's pretty all. At first time it seems like you are paying, but everybody could do this, playing in Asana or Trello, reporting this stuff. But in this case, you need to manage everybody. You need to control all the deadlines. In this case, no, just because her KPI to do to complete all the tasks in time. And another thing that I learned is to create an internal learning center with video instructions. That's the most powerful way, just because if you create a text instructions, not everybody will get them. With screenshots and with preparing all the screenshots and steps, it will take much more time than preparing video instructions. So what I decided, any question I get, I open Loom extension, I record a video, I give them, and that girl who is in charge of project management, she add to our internal base and whatever. I never come back to this question. So once somebody has, so the first time you need to open Notion and you need to figure out whether we have this instruction or no. That's literally helped me to exit out of that agency. So I work on some strategical level and get, let's call it some kind of passive income because I don't really engage in it. And there is another learning which was always complicated for me to become okay with okay standard, because not any employee will do the same stuff like you. So that's a really complicated thing. Like, I was in charge, I was writing all the articles, I was writing all the newsletters, and I was preparing all marketing automations. But then I realized, like, my first content marketer, she was like, she's working with me for today, for 5 years. And like, when she started, I was like, well, what you're writing, that's something we can send definitely to client. So I took her like articles, I rewrote them, like, okay, that's what you can send. But then I started to apply that principle to myself, and like, that's only probably the best way to grow your business. Otherwise, it's not possible. Otherwise, you'll be always a micromanager, and you'll be like in charge of working with fires, because these fires will appear in every corner of your business. Then the next lesson I learned with working with my team is the truth about shared responsibility. So I tried to be a more like loyal manager. I didn't want to be a manager at all, but still I needed to be. So I was like, okay, guys, let's make brainstorms. From corporate world, I hated the idea of like meetups, of weekly meetups, of stand-ups or whatever. So they know what they need to do. They have a revenue target, and that's pretty all what I'm interested in about. And I was like, okay, so I have this idea, we need to test. And then I didn't say that this exactly person will be in charge of execution. And then what's happened? That's probably the best story which describes it. Like, there is a little story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. So that happened with my company, exactly. So I was like, then like a week later, what's our progress with that idea? And everybody, I assumed you will do it. I assume you will do it. With small team, it's not like we have like eight people work for my company. Like, it's not big one. But it was like, I assume she will do it, and that was like, okay, so that's pretty all I needed to learn the hard way. So that's why we switched to that stuff, to project management, to internal base, and to checklist. And the project manager, she's in charge of preparing, of setting up all the tasks in Asana. We use it for project management, and that's pretty all. So the next one is hiring talents versus growing talent. That was a complicated thing. I remember we decided to hire, even we were inbound agency, but we had inbound leads, and guys, they were so busy they didn't have a time to interview new clients. And of course, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to spend time for discovery calls, for all these things. So I decided to hire a guy who was in my community, and I knew him quite well. He was working for Reckitt Benckiser, also international company, as a sales manager for 10 years, so quite experienced guy. And I was like, would you like to work with me? He's, yeah, definitely. I thought, we don't need you for full time, but let's agree just say me what are your conditions to work with me partially. So you are your goal is to work with inbound leads, and I will give you some processes how to proceed with hot leads. That's another story, how we defined hot sales qualified leads. And he was like, okay, so here are my conditions, let's start working together. And that was a pretty crazy thing that I learned the hard way. So when you are hiring an experienced person, you are also hiring their experience and stereotypes, both good and bad. And that was did you record your discovery call with, because his first 10 calls, they all failed. I'm like, that's something going wrong, because we use usually we close from four inbound leads, we like close 3 customers. In terms of, we don't sell only inbound marketing services, but we also sell my like private corporate workshops or whatever. So usually close, just because it's people who know us, who read our stuff, they like, we close usually like 3 or 4 leads. And that was something definitely goes wrong. I like, did you record your call? No. Like, but why? You have like, I told you at the beginning that you need to record all your calls. Well, you know, like it looks like you don't like, you are not confident in me, or like I didn't build enough credibility, but I'm not about this. I'm listening to these discovery calls to figure out the objections, the doubts, the clients, like, or clients' concerns, to figure out what kind of, I don't know, content we can create, case studies or whatever they might need to simplify the sales process. And he was like, no, I'm still feeling that it's not like we have like a break-in relationship. Then, okay, like, please record the next call. And you know, like the next call, I was listening to him, and this guy was living also in Ukraine, in Dnipropetrovsk, like it's called Dnieper now. So I was listening to the next call, and like a client asked about our inbound marketing services, and we had 3 tiers. That's like the most interesting part. So the client started, okay, like I learned your proposal. I learned like about the way I checked some of your case studies, and like I'm interested in your like the most expensive tier. I want to pay you like literally the most of money we can get from him. And that guy is saying, well, maybe it's better to start with a light one. I'm like, oh shit. And a client, why do you suggest me? Well, you know, maybe it's like, I feel it's much more suitable for you. And like, I just stopped this, like, I just stopped the recording. I called him and asked like, what are you doing? And he said like, you know, like I felt it's not a good fit for them to sell more expensive service. Maybe they won't get the results. I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, then I shared it with a friend of mine, that story, and he said, you know, what's the problem? That guy, he earns like, with that Ukrainian deflation, so, you know, his salary dropped down in terms of euro or in terms of dollars. So it was the same in Ukrainian currency, but in terms of euro, it like dropped down 3 times or 4 times. And the problem for that guy was like, he earned much less than the price of our service. And it was very, very difficult to him to sell expensive service, just because he was thinking about mindset. I can't pay for this service, so I won't sell it. And he was confident with that lowest tier. That's why I just started to investigate. I started to make a small experiment. He worked for us for next 3 months, and like 85% of his deal was the lowest tiers. So then after 3 months, I said, thank you for all this experience. That was pretty good, but we need to move another road. And there was another story with like growing up teams, like growing up your talents. That was with that girl who started with me. I mentioned that content marketer. Her first articles was very, very, very bad. I had a course on content marketing, so but I saw like really potential, because she was writing something. She shared with me. She worked for some tech company. It's like, you know, avia sales probably, or kayak. So she worked for some analogical project it's called Trip My Dream. So she wrote very, very good articles about travel topic. And I saw that she definitely has a great potential. So I started invest. I made a private coaching calls. I tried to educate her. I paid for her courses for some storytelling, for copywriting. And the reason why I remember that famous football coach, you know, player and coach Johan Cruyff, and he shared a story about Josep Guardiola, who is probably one of the most famous coaches nowadays, training Manchester City. So he said, when he joined Barcelona, he got a report from coaches, and coaches said, we have a Guardiola, he is quite a good player. And he's like, okay, I want to attend one of his games, you know. He went like for the young team, he didn't saw him even like on a bench. He went for the second squad, no. Like for the younger ones, no. Like, okay, you said like there's a good player, Guardiola, but I didn't see him on any game. Well, you know, we don't pick up him for games. Why? Just because he's physically bad, and like we can't get him to the field just because we lose. But well, like what he said, if we lose, but we need to have great players. And he will grow up, don't worry, everybody will grow up, and we need to make a great players. And you know, he had a great career as a player in Barcelona, and he is really a great coach at the moment. That was like also inspiration for me. And I decided to do the same with like all my team. I had besides that guy, and I had only one girl I needed to fire. Besides that, all these 8 persons worked with me for day one for these 5 years. And they're like, what I mentioned, that helped me like simply exit out of that business. I don't do anything with that agency, and that's how it grew. And probably the last lesson I learned, I want to show you that your environment can either pull you to the swamp or help shooting the stars. That's really a goal. You know, you probably have heard about the famous quote that you are like a person of 5 people who surround you or with whom you hang out for the most time. That's actually like when you are not satisfied, when you are not happy with your environment, it definitely impacts negatively your business outcomes, your like family, whatever. That happened to me in Ukraine. That's what I mentioned. I wanted to move to Poland. I'd never moved, to be honest, I'd never moved to from Krakow to another city if there wasn't that smoke problem, that environment problem, and that damaged the health of my family, because it's like it's one of the best probably places to live. But what I wanted to say that I had an idea that like I remember the time, that's actually a picture from city center of Krakow with the guys from my mastermind. I remember the times, you know, when I was working with, like at Biosphere with colleagues, and their mindset was, okay, how much money, well, what can I do to earn some more bonuses, you know, all the very low mindset. And with the people who are, you know, working on some global products, who are growing their business, that's entirely different. And you are like with every meeting, you get this inspiration to move further. That's really true. And also the place, what I realized, like the last half of the year with Krakow was like extremely dangerous, just because the air pollution was so bad, and like Krakow became overcrowded. So in the last 5 years it grew from 700,000 to 1,200,000 of inhabitants. So people, it's historical city, and it became literally a like huge traffic jam. Whatever you want to get, you are staying in traffic jam. So I know people are saying like in Zagreb we have, like, believe me, it's nothing compared to what we have in Krakow. So you can't get like you have like a distance of 5 kilometers, and it takes you 1 hour and 30 minutes just to get to that place. So that was crazy. And in our case, we had like the biggest problem in my case was that my elder son, he was playing football. He is a big fan, and he was like pushing on football. And it's like the level of football in Croatia and in Poland, we can't compare it. It's like earth and heaven. So that was a problem. I needed to find a good club, a good coach for him, and we were like in charge of moving through entire city. And it was like I needed to start my work day literally at 6 a.m. just to finish everything to 3 p.m. to move with him with all these trainings, with moving this through all these traffic jams, and with, of course, when you know, we don't open windows for 7 months just because of that, like damn smoke. So that was crazy. I was really got angry. That was a thing that I decided to. I won't go in details why split, but anyway, that's a picture of my family. So once I came to Split in June, you know, like for 2 years I had an idea of launching a software product, and I didn't have a time. I didn't have, or when I had a time, I didn't have enough motivation to start working on it. like for the last 6 months in Split, I launched Royplan. I launched another project I called iTractor, where Tony also gave a talk on online conference recently. So it's an educational project for IT companies. So I grew Get Leader project. I grew like our community. I gave some more workshops and whatever. That's the reason why like I came here. I got inspired by that beautiful region, but by Dalmatia, by Split, and that's why like every day I am waking up smiling. So that's probably the best learning I got. That once you are living in a place which inspires you, you'll definitely rock the scene. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you today. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope it was insightful or maybe inspiring you. So basically, if you want, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just type Andrei Zinkiewicz, or on Facebook, or recently I launched a WhatsApp channel about my startup journey. So whatever, like whenever you want to join me with, like, you are welcome. So that's pretty all. Thanks a lot for attention. Hope it was good and useful for you. Thank you. Oh.